Everybody, welcome back to our episode of FSi DFS Fantasy Baseball Picks. I'm your host, Member 31. Hope you had a good Monday. Uh, Pretty exciting national title game. Congratulations to UConn. Pretty dominant team over the last couple of years. So it's nice to see that. Uh, Baseball, 11 game slate today. Only one game that might have a little bit of weather concern, but I got up at 6 today. It's like 9 when I'm recording this now, and like pricing on this is hard. I feel maybe uh, later on in the day, like some other things will come, but there's some stacks that you want, but there's some pitchers that you want, and like for an SP2, like I want to pay down, but not too far, and I want to get some exposure to certain teams, but the value plays, I just don't want to completely punt a ton. So I think I got it. So let's run through everything game by game, and then I will give you some examples of where I'm going to go. First game, Miami Marlins and the New York Yankees, AJ Puck and Carlos Rondon. Puck looked great in spring training. Put him on the cover of the first video I did. I went out there, it was very underwhelming. Thought, okay, maybe it's just a one-off. Second game goes out there, still doesn't really have it. So I am really liking the Yankees here, and he's going to be a fade for me. Rendon, on the other hand, two is I think he's in play in the cheaper range, but the cheaper range isn't super cheap. It's like, between like 8K and I mean, I think there's like one 6K guy there, but it's pretty much like the 7K range, just the way this slate is with pitching. And I don't know if I can do it. Like the Marlins aren't the best, and they only have a 3.37 total, but it's gonna be decent in Yankee Stadium, 65 degrees. I'm blowing a little bit, but it's not enough to really make anything significant. And I think the Marlin bats are in play, especially if you need some value here with some of the righties, at least not maybe to like hit home runs, but in cash, but at least to maybe put together some runs, and I can see that. So definitely Marlin bats and definitely right-handed Yankee bats here. Torres, Judge, Stanton. Stanton's had 3 extra base hits in the last 3 games, so he's starting to put together and heat up a little bit. Volpe. If you want to throw Soto and Rizzo in there, you can. I don't think you need to. Whoever the catcher is, wrap around with Birdie. Other couple of cheap options there for you. Next game, we have Seattle Mariners and Toronto Blue Jays. Kirby and Bassett. Kirby is definitely in play here at 9-4. I think there's better pitchers in the range. I think he'd be my fifth favorite if you're gonna pay up. As we said, like Toronto hasn't been great to start the season, but they weren't really a nice strikeout team at all. And they're, as I keep it saying, a reverse split hitting team with like righties, though they hit righties sometimes better than lefties. So I think Kirby is in play, but I don't think I have a ton of him. Abassa on the other side has struggled a little bit to start the season, a little bit with command. And even though Seattle should be a decent matchup here for him, being the number 2 in strikeout rate to start the season, I don't know. I think maybe Seattle bats, even though I haven't listed in the 150 max, might be a little bit sneaky here to play against them. So I like these pitchers. I don't love these pitchers. I don't know if I'll play these pitchers, but I'm not saying fade these pitchers. That wise, I think, either one of them, I have them over in the 150 max. You have like a pretty much dead even game here for total. So I think in GPPs, you got to consider them like a stack of each, but I wouldn't make them priority and I wouldn't be using them as like one offs at all. Next up, we have the New York Mets and the Atlanta Braves. The Mets figured out how to play baseball last night. Holy cow, was this a high scoring game? I think it's had more runs scored in it than Coors did. Crazy. Braves are out to a 4-0 lead, cruising, and the Mets came back, and then it was back and forth, and Brendan Nemo hit 2 home runs. It's just it's a pretty remarkable game. So today, mild weather concern, maybe like a 40% chance of rain. So I don't think it'll be too bad, but it looks like it's going to tail off a lot, by the as you get into the game. So it's not like it's progressively going to get worse. So I think they'll be fine with this one. Wind is blowing in a little bit, 66 degrees. So it's not like great hitting weather, but I don't think it's horrible. So I'm not touching either pitcher here. Hauser, no, against this powerful Braves lineup. And Lopez, he looked okay in spring trainer. He is a reliever that they threw into the starting lineup with the injuries that they've had, and now especially losing Strider. They are going to need him to pitch, but I don't think he goes that deep, and I don't think he's that good. And he didn't look great in his first time I saw him. So I'm out on that. So I like the Mets as probably one of my favorite cheap stacks to here, especially like the lefties like Nemo, Lindor is 5K, but Nemo 4-1 is a great price there. Beatty at 3-1. Yeah, there's like a mini stack for fill-ins there. And then the Braves are definitely in play here with a 5.48 total against Hauser. You can pretty much play anyone. I don't think I can get to Acuna at 6-6 until I see him producing a lot. And the Braves, like I said, are expensive. So, if I am playing him, I'm going to play some Clinic in my stack, some Harris in my stack, just to try to be able to it's kind of like the Dodgers when you got to play some of the bottom lineup too. You get some of the big bats in. Azuna had another home run, had five. So I think you can go righties or lefties against Hauser, either one here, but I might kind of do like a middle stack of them, maybe like Olsen, Osuna, Harris, Clinic, Arcia, something like that. If I'm doing it just to try to keep the pricing down because it's just way too expensive and you want to get some good pitching. And even if you're trying to pay down on pitching, you are going to end up in the 7K range and still not have a lot of salary. Now, there might be one 4K guy, and we'll get to that situation later on in the video, but it's just not a guarantee. So for like cash, I don't know if I can get to the Braves. If you can make it work, phenomenal. But I tried, and I think, it's more of a GPP for me. Dodgers and Twins, Glasnow and Varland. Glasnow is definitely probably the top pitcher on the slate. If you can get up to him at 10-1, it's kind of a tall task there. Like I said, with pricing, if you want to try to get some bats in early on in the season, you tend to want to prioritize bats in better situations than pitchers because they're not stretched out, they don't go as long, and they're just not dialed in quite as much yet. So you don't get those like high upside games unless that like one off from like Blanco there. But there have been some good pitching uh, slates with like one or two pitchers, but it's just not a guarantee. So last note, like love the potential here, love the upside. I don't know if I can get to them in cash. Varland, I'm not touching against this Dodger team. Betts has been great. Otani had a home run last night, starting to heat up a little bit. It's just a matter of time before Freeman does. Muncy always has potential. It was good to see Outman hit a home run last night. So again, you can like kind of pound the bottom of this lineup, especially with Lux, Outman, and Trammell at like 2K and do like a wraparound with like Otani, Freeman, Betts, like so they're much easier to get to um than the Braves are in a much better matchup here in Minnesota with the wind blowing out at 10 miles per hour, 60 degrees. So it's not bad there against a substandard pitcher. And Minnesota does have one of the best bullpens, so that's another thing to take in consideration. They have been tops there. Minnesota on the other side against Glasnow, I think it's just purely a leverage play. That if you wanted to try to throw like a lefty stack out there of Julian, Krylov, Kepler, Wallner, maybe throw in like Carrera, Buxton, maybe Santana switch hitter there as a leverage stack, just in case Glasnow is off, then I think that's something that you can potentially look at. And the other factor for Glasnow too is Minnesota is number 3 in K rate this year so far. So something else to consider of helping Glasnow ceiling there. Houston and Kansas City. Last night the pitcher got scratched, and we ended up with a 4K guy there in a bullpen game. So they're a little bit stretched out. Javier's there today. So, against a KC team that can be pesky, that we've seen them put up some runs in some series and then other times be cold. So, who knows? Like the potential is always there for KC. I'm not going to call them like a sleeping giant by any uh, means, but I think they can definitely be have the potential there. And Javier has looked a little bit better this year. He really struggled. He has been reverse splitsy, so Garcia, Witts, Perez, Velasquez are definitely in play there. Reagan's on the other side. This is a hard matchup, but Reagan's could definitely be a top 10 pitcher, especially with all the top talent that's been eliminated this year due to injury. And Houston just is not off to a great start. So, there's always potential there with Altuve, Bregman, Diaz with some power at the bottom of the lineup, some more contact and speed guys. Abreu, so again a little dusty. Tucker and Alvarez always have hit lefties well too. So Houston has great potential, but I think in GPPs I want to try some Reagan at 8-2. I think he's got some great strikeout stuff. I know Houston's very patient and bottom three in K rate. So not a team I usually like to target, but in GPP, I might take some shots there. So Houston for a stack would kind of be in the middle range of a GPP stack for me. And Kansas City, I think you have some cheap guys in here, and don't be afraid to. I know Bobby Witt's like 6-1, which is like super expensive, but leave them out there or go like in the middle of the order here. You have like 4-3, 3-4, 3-6. Fraser at 2-7, Renfro 3-1. You've got some people that you can fill in here in a very nice price range for you. Philadelphia Phillies and St. Louis Cardinals, Zach Wheeler and Sonny Gray. And Philly got off to a terrible start last night. Like Mikolas looked really good against them, and then they finally started to come alive a little bit. But we have Zach Wheeler there, and again, I think he's like probably one of the top pitchers left in baseball with all the injuries up there with like Reagan's. Um, and St. Louis has just been bad to start the season. It just I don't know if it's just they should have made more moves in the offseason, or Goldsmith and Ariano are on the other side of their careers on their way down. And you do have some nice young lefties here like Gorman and Burleson. And we'll just have to see Scott, but he's got the speed and everything. I say he's Billy Hamilton 2.0. Like if he gets on, he could steal like 2-3 bases. But if he's gonna probably strike out like 9 out of 10 times before he gets that walker on base. So always a cheap play, but he's getting up to almost 3K. Like I like playing him when he's like 2K. Anyways, pitching wise, like Wheeler, great. There. St. Louis is what is it, sixth or seventh, number six, I believe, for K rate to start the season. It's like 25%. So definitely K is in this lineup. Sonny Gray is coming back from injury. He's only probably going to do like 55 to 65 pitches, maybe 3 innings. So I'm not playing him at 8-5 against the Philadelphia team. Philly, I do definitely like a GPP stack. If you are a betting person, I am playing on sportsbooks. 3.65 seems like a very low total against Sonny Gray, and it's not like the St. Louis bullpen is like one of the top ones. So I think Philly could definitely score 4 runs here and eclipse that. So I will be betting that the over on the Phillies run total today. And I think the lineup's definitely in play for a GPP. Lefties probably Schwarber, Harper, Dot, Marshes continues to be pretty hot there. You can build a 5-man stack, more of a GPP than a cash play. And St. Louis, I'm really not touching against Wheeler unless it's just a leverage thing and going YOLO. Um, Throw some of the lefty bats in there and see what sticks. Everybody can have an off day. It's baseball. That's why they play the game, to see what happens. But with a 3.36 total, I'm not expecting much. A's and Rangers, Alex Wood and Evaldi. Wood is a decent pitcher, like from the Giants, and he's cheap. Probably on the other side of his career here, winding things down. He has had control issues, so definitely I think it puts the Rangers in play. Probably my third favorite stack on the slate here. Especially having some right-handed power, and even Seager's great lefty on lefty, so there's lots of decent plays there. Evaldi on the other side, he had a masterful time out against Tampa Bay last time. His first outing wasn't bad either. This A's lineup is fourth highest with K rate, so I think they're almost 20, high 25, almost 26%. So definitely some strikeouts there. So Evaldi is definitely a solid pick here if you want a little bit of savings. He's at 8-8, dropping down from Wheeler and from Glass now. I think he's solidly in play. With definitely the win upside too. And on FanDuel, definitely for the quality start. So would, I mean, cheap if you want to take a chance there, but I think it's kind of dicey. Evaldi, love him. Uh, A's bats, I think are probably just leverage. Don't really see a ton of upside there, especially because I think they're better as like righties against a lefty than a little, their lefties are against a righty. And then, like I said, against lefty here, Simeon, Seager, Langford, just a matter of time. He had great power in spring training. Before he hits one out of the park, Garcia, I'm a switch hitter. Duran, I've always been a fan of too, with power and speed. He's only 2.6. And Carter's kind of down lineup. He had an amazing fall last year, but just kind of hasn't put it together yet. It's kind of in a sophomore slump, or maybe this is truly his rookie year because he didn't play all last year, but don't know how that works. But anyways, he'll come around too. But against a lefty, I'm not super excited with that, or the bottom of this lineup. But I think there's enough towards the top to make a decent stack, and they're cheaper than the Braves and the Dodgers and stuff. So yeah, in Arizona. So I think you can definitely make them work. So speaking of Arizona, in course here, 61 degrees, wind blowing in at 8 miles per hour. So it's not terrible. It's still a big park, still a great opportunity. Kelly, not as high on him as it was Glasnow, but I think he's still in play against a Rockies team that definitely struggles. Inquan Ha, Hal Quintrill is probably the worst pitcher on the slate, so definitely like Arizona here. But just pricing wise and split wise, like I don't know. They're so expensive, and again, I want to prioritize pitching. So Marte and Carroll, I think, are my priorities. Gurriel, I like it. I wish it was a lefty, but it's okay. Christian Walker, I'd rather against a lefty than a righty. It's been good, but much better against lefties. Jock Peterson, I think the potential is definitely there at 4.2. I like it, but if they do bring a lefty in the bullpen, does he get pitch hit for? Suarez is just kind of been there. I think it was a nice piece to kind of solidify and lengthen the lineup a little bit and upgrade over Longoria. I think it was there last year, but I just don't feel it's like it really paid off as much as he did as he was playing in Seattle. Maybe he'll come. Moreno at catcher is a little expensive there, righty and righty. McCarthy, I really like on the bottom, and Blaze Alexander with the Perdomo injury is probably going to be playing every single day. And, he's got some speed and power, but he's almost getting up to 4K. I liked him when he was a little bit cheaper. If he had the splits, I'd play him. But I mean, you can still include him in kind of a wraparound stack. I'm sure there's some lefties in the bullpen for Colorado. And again, in the stadium, like against a really bad pitcher, he might be able just to hit one for contact and with speed get on base and be perfectly fine. The Rockies side of it against Kelly, I mean, I'd take just probably some lefties like Blackman, McMahon, uh, maybe Jones, but not super excited about a bunch of them. I have them as like the top GPP stack just because it is course, but I think I'd rather play like San Diego or Houston as like full stacks over trying to full stack Colorado tonight. Tampa Bay and the Angels, 73 degrees in Los Angeles, wind blowing out to 8 miles per hour. But as we always say, wind in the California and these stadiums isn't as significant as it is in like Chicago or some other parks like Fenway, Yankee Stadium, things like that. So Savali, really like him here. It's been was solid in Cleveland and come over to Tampa Bay and just looks like he's taken to the next step. Like Tampa Bay has always done masterful job with pitchers, like other than like all their whole staff getting injured last year. So if he stays healthy, then I think he'll be fine. But look, against this Angels team, it's basically just Trout and Ward. Like everybody else has struggled. They did put up some runs last night, so maybe it's starting to click. Maybe things are starting to come around. But I still think, let me just see if I can click on them here and look at it. Uh, what the batting averages are so far. I just I just don't feel that they're um where we thought they would be. But I like the pricing on the Angels for that. But Savali, I think is going to definitely be my SP2, and in cash, I really like it. Patrick Sandoval on the other side, I think he's in play here. Tampa Bay has really struggled against left-handed pitching for some reason. I don't understand it because it's mostly a right-handed lineup, which is just doesn't make sense. And they have a, even though they're not in like top 10 in K rate against left-handed pitching so far, they've been up there. So I think Sandoval and seeing what Anderson did to him last night, I think Sandoval could definitely be in play here at 7-1. So I'll definitely consider it probably more of a GPP than a cash play, but I think somebody you got to look at. So Tampa Bay bat wise, I mean, GPP, if you don't trust that, if you think that they snap out of it here, and they're going to throw the righties out there. So Diaz, Harold Ramirez, Rosarina, Paredes, Rosario. Don't think I would be playing Mead, especially 4K. That's a lot for there. Caballero is going to be a future solid player, and Series got speed and power too. So there's definitely can find five right-handed bats to make a stack there, but again, it's more GPP. And Angels, I think, will just be more of if you wanted to play, like if Moniak hits second again, I think that's such a better situation. Like if you want to go three-man, like Moniak, Trout, Ward. I think that's as far as I would go with that, like a three-man like hedge stack against Savale if he's going to be super popular as a pitcher. Washington and the San Francisco Giants. You have Josiah Gray and Kyle Harrison. Not interested in Josiah Gray against this Giants team. They are probably going to come out with like a full like lefty lineup there and really be tough to get through. So I don't want to play Josiah Gray. And then Kyle Harrison on the other side. If Abrams is out still, like there's really not a ton of righties here that Young will probably lead off again. Like Lane Thomas is there. Meneses, they did put up runs last night, and maybe they're turning into the same version of last year where they were death by 1,000 paper cuts, where they just like nickel and dime you to death. Scoring runs, like not a ton of power. It's just like a hit here, a hit there, and everything just adds up before you know it. They've got the lead. But I look at this lineup compared to last year's lineup, and it's just not even as good as what they had last year. So we'll just have to see how it transpires throughout the course of the season. If they, if Stone Garrett gets healthy and can come in and or if they bring some of the other guys up from Rochester to this prospects wise, maybe they'll help out a little bit. But the top three there with Abrams, Thomas, and Meneses are solid young core, and you got veterans like Winker and Gallo in there, and then Young also. You would think that this would start to put things together, but I just haven't seen it yet. So I think Harrison, even though he's a young pitcher, is solidly in play here as a great option. And then giant wise, I don't really. I think you've got some cheap bats that like I like Conforto. He's been on fire to start the season. Wade, Junko Lean, Conforto and Lee would probably stay in the game. Wade usually gets paid to hit for. Yastrzemski struggled, but at 3-1, here's a great opportunity for him. So, but that's the thing with the Giants. You just have to hope that they get it at it early and often, because with the way they mix and match and pitch hit things, they haven't done as much this year, but the potential is always still there for them to fall back into that. So I think it's always like a trap play. Don't really feel safe playing them in cash other than maybe like I said Conforto and Lee, because they seem to stay in the game even if they bring in a lefty. The other ones like are GPP plays. Final game, Cubs and Padres. It looks like Smiley's going to start the game at 7-3, maybe go 3 to 4 innings. I don't want that. Even though the Padres looked horrible against Assad. last night. They really haven't struck out much. They've been like the fourth lowest K rate, except besides last night. Um, but then Ben Brown's going to come in. Ben Brown's 4K. That's what the rumor is. If Ben Brown starts and it's the opener, maybe it's a little bit easier because then you guarantee he's going to come in. But how many times do we see with like Manea last year, where like he's going to be the potential long reliever, and then like the with game script, like they were getting blown out or the game went another way, and he never came in. So like if you don't see the person starting, it's always a risk. So I can't see you throwing Ben Brown as a 4K pitcher in cash. Not knowing if he's going to actually pitch or not, like being 100% guaranteed. Like coach speak is one thing. If that's the plan, that's one thing. It doesn't mean he's actually going to pick up the ball and get in the game. It's probably a 75% chance he's going to, but you always have that 25% chance, and you don't want all that money you put in your cash game lineup to be completely dead because the pitcher is not going to pitch. But in GPPs, it can get you up to a Glass. It'll get you up to a Wheeler. It can get you the stack you want to play, and it can get you, some salary relief too if it's going to work out. So that's my take on the Cub pitching. Musgrove on the other side, I think he's in play, but the Cubs have been pretty hot to start the season. So, and they did okay last night again, even on the road here. It's definitely a pitcher's park. And Musgrove, I think, would be my third, fourth favorite. I'd like Glasnow, Wheeler, and Evaldi over him. But in the 8K range, if you're looking for probably a lower owned uh pitcher that's going to be like sub 20%, then I think he's definitely someone that you can throw out there and see what happens. But I like the Cubs as a leverage stack if Musgrove does have some ownership because they have been hitting pretty well. And the Padres, I think, against this pitching situation against Smiley and then the young Ben Brown, I think if they can actually put it together and show their potential, they're so frustrating. Like the Padres and like the Blue Jays are like almost the same story. Like if you look at this lineup on paper, you're like, wow, these guys should be like putting up runs every single night. And it's just not happening for either one consistently, but it's always there. These two are kind of the sleeping giants that could go up and like put up a lot of runs. So we'll see what happens to that. So let's look at the builds here. So like pitching wise, I said Glasnow, if you can get up to it, Wheeler is probably where I'm starting with Cash. Evaldi is solidly in play for some savings there. Musgrove in play, Kirby in play. The medium range, I don't like this as much as I like the 7K one, but Kelly, if you want to get chances against a Rockies team that has been has some strikeouts in it, definitely. And even though it's in Coors Field, Bassett, and just kind of iffy there. I think Seattle might be sneaky. Reagan's against a Houston team, but that again is another sleeping giant, definitely. I mean, they're a tier above like Toronto and San Diego, but Reagan's has just seemed to be a top-notch pitcher, and I think we'll see if that talent wins out there. Lopez and Javier are in play, but I'm not super excited about them. But I like this cheap range, which I mean isn't super cheap. We're talking 7Ks, with Salali has a great matchup. Harrison has a great matchup. Sandoval has the opportunity to have a good matchup, just the way Tampa Bay has done against left-handed pitching. Rodon, I think I like the Marlins more as like cheap fill-ins over him, but he's there and Woods in play as probably the cheapest pitcher as a punt, but not for cash. Fading Quattrell, Puck, Hauser, Smiley, and Varland, and then not interested in Sonny Gray, who's starting out with a pitch count and not going very far. Josiah Gray, don't like the matchup. And then Brown is 4K, is no interest in cash, but in GPP, if we're think he's actually going to play, can open up some salary relief for you. So let's look at the builds and get you on your way for your day. So I'm taking Wheeler and Sivali. If you want Evaldi to get a little bit extra salary there, I'm fine with that. So I am going with stacking the Diamondbacks. So Arizona. So Marte, Carroll, and McCarthy are the ones I'm taking. If I'm filling in with the Marlins because I think that they're cheap and against Rodon. So whoever the catcher is can go there. If you want to go Bell at first, that's fine. Or you can take a one off there. Uh, Depending on who the catcher is, you might, if it's Betancourt, you might not have enough in your build to get to Blaze Alexander, so you might have to take Tanner Anderson. But if it is Forte, then he's $200 cheaper. That should give you enough in your build to get the Blaze Alexander, so you can do kind of a wraparound stack there. For outfielder, you can decide if you want Jock Peterson, if you want Gurriel, or whoever else you want. You just might have to punt first base and not take Bell, but there should be some options there. And again, if you move down to Evaldi, that opens it up, and you should be able to get Gurriel in rather easily. And if you punt catcher and go all the way down, then you might be able to get Walker in that lineup also. So that's where I'm going for cash. For I have no idea why this says that should be Reagan's. So I'm going to take a shot on him. I think the talent is definitely there. It's should be he should have a good outing. So if you don't trust it, that's fine. There's many other places you can go for the SP1 there. Sandoval, I'm going with the SP2. Give me New York. New York. It's gonna be that. So Torres, Judge, Stanton. I'm starting with the righties there. Maybe Volpe if I can get him in. Maybe the catcher if that works with the stack. For the Mets, give me Nemo, give me Beatty. If I can get to Alonso, Lindor, if you don't want to go Volpe there, Alvarez, maybe a catcher. So that's where I'm going. I really like the matchups for both of them against pitchers that should struggle. And I think that they should be able to put up some runs. So that's where I'm going for GPP. But as we've discussed in this video, there's many other places to go. So that's what I got for you. If you have any questions, put them in the chat below. Hit me up at MegaRoar31 on Twitter / and if these videos help us back by liking them, subscribing to our channel if you haven't already. We're slowly creeping up there in the 4.8 range. Getting closer and closer to the 5K, which we'd like to do by the end of the season. Got a long way to go. So if you haven't subscribed yet, and just please, if do it, that could help us a lot. And share these videos with your friends if they're helping you out. We're out here to help people, so let's help more people. So thanks for that. So good luck in your contest. You know how to get a hold of me, and hope you have an amazing Tuesday. I'll see you next time.